Darkcast Network, bringing our indie podcasts out of the shadows.
Just before we dive into this week's episode, here's a promo.
Hey, creepy people!
This is P&W, Haunts and Homicides. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Cassie.
Together, we explore stories of the paranormal and true crime throughout the Pacific Northwest. For each episode, we do a tarot reading to help us gain some insight on the topic as we share the facts of the case and our interpretations. You can find our episodes featuring true stories from infamous cases such as the misdeeds of Boeing, as well as lesser-known true crime cases like the murders in Tunnel 13.
As well as our spooky stories from Pike Place and Ravens Manor on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you'd like to listen. Have a creepy-ass day!
Welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome to today's episode.
Hello everybody, thanks for joining us once again, or if you're new here, welcome to our podcast.
So Jill, where in the world are we?
We are in the UK.
And the title of your case today?
Related to evil.
Okay.
you just had I don't know, like a really blank look on your face there.
Related to evil.
Yes.
Interesting title.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we just dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Go.
So, Rebecca Marie Watts, known as Becky, was born in Bristol on the 3rd of June 1998 to parents Tanya and Darren. And they already had a son, Daniel, who was 2 years older than Becky. Her mum and dad split up when she was a baby. So Becky and Dan stayed with their mum at first, but then they went to live with their dad, Darren Goldsworthy, when Becky was 2 and Dan was 4. So Darren, their dad, he had met a woman called Angie when Becky was, I think she was a baby, like she was only about 6 months old or something, and they fell in love. Angie had a son from a previous relationship called Nathan Matthews, who was 12 years older than Becky, but Angie treated all 3 kids the same, you know, she took on Darren's 2 kids, had her kids, all good. Mm-hmm. So the kids also like just treated each other as like brothers and sisters, you know. Mm-hmm. I think Nathan, the Angie's son, I think he like because he was like 12 years older, I think he was kind of, they were, you know, like just saw the younger 2 as kind of the annoying little kids, so he wasn't really that interested. But they had just a normal relationship, you know. It wasn't particularly close, but it wasn't bad or anything like that, you know.
It was just fine.
Yeah. So Becky was really close to her dad and her stepmom Angie, and like they were actually best friends. Like her and her stepmom were like so close. And Angie even took an unpaid teacher's assistant job at Becky's primary school because Becky was so shy and she didn't want to be away from her. But like when she was young, Becky just sort of kind of needed constant reassurance, and she just sort of always wanted to be with somebody, and she just didn't have any confidence and all that. So I mean, her stepmom to do that is pretty amazing.
Definitely.
Becky didn't have a great time at high school. She was bullied regularly, and one time like the bullies even ripped her jacket off her back. I mean, I hate bullies.
Oh no, so much.
And Angie, she did obviously, she complained to the school and whatnot, but it actually just made things worse for Becky, and the bullying continued. And Becky was like such a lovable kid, and when she cried at home about her like having no friends, her parents just couldn't understand how, because as I said, she was just like with them, she was just a lovable child. She just wanted people, she wanted friends, she wanted people like her, and she was struggling. She was shy, she was being bullied, and she struggled with body image. So she was diagnosed with an eating disorder and social anxiety, which led her to relying on Angie even more. And she ended up, for a while anyway, she ended up having a fear of leaving the house. So Aaron, that was Angie and Darren. That was
Is that their together name?
Yeah, that's their together name, Aaron. So Angie and Darren, they were determined to help Becky through it. And Darren said, quote, Becky was bullied about her weight and we almost lost her to anorexia. But with a lot of care from us and hospital education, we were able to get her Becky back.
Oh.
End quote. Unfortunately, when Becky was 13, Angie was diagnosed with having multiple sclerosis. I knew I was going to struggle to say that. And she started having trouble like moving around the house, like moving around and like doing like household tasks. So Becky started helping her around the house and like taking Angie out in her wheelchair and just really doing what she could to help Angie and her dad. Dad could sort of take the load off Darren a bit. So, you know, she was a good kid. She was...
Sounds like.
Yeah. So Darren asked Angie to marry him when Becky was 15. And they I thought this was so cute, that they trusted Becky to choose the outfits for the wedding party. So she chose Angie's wedding dress.
Wow.
She chose the bridesmaids' dresses. She even chose like what her dad, the groom, and his best man, and everybody chose what everybody was wearing, because she was getting like quite into fashion and that. So the colour theme for the wedding was blue because that was Becky's favourite colour.
Right.
So I thought that was quite cute.
Yeah, that's cute.
So by the time Becky was 16, her older brothers Nathan and Dan had moved out, so it was just Becky, her dad and her stepmom living in the 2-storey house in St George on the east side of Bristol. So by this point, like, Nathan had children of his own, and his partner Shauna, she actually became Angie's full-time carer. So they weren't living there, but she would come and she would do things a bit for her, look after her and stuff. So they were there every day, and like, Dan, I'm assuming he visited regularly as well. Just a normal family.
Yeah.
So Becky, she was at a different school by now, and she was happy. She had friends, like she had a really close-knit group of friends, and she wasn't getting bullied anymore.
Good.
So, but because of what had happened to her, she didn't want anyone else feeling like that. So she would actually spend like her break times and that, like talking and giving advice to other kids who were like struggling to fit in. So I thought, how nice. So it just goes to show what a lovely,
I know, because she's
lovely
taken
kid.
a totally negative experience in her life to try and prevent it from happening to
Yeah.
other people. That's nice.
She said that she just didn't want anybody to feel the way that she felt.
Yeah.
So she got herself a boyfriend called Luke Oberhansley. He was 17, because she was 16 at this point. He was 17, and he was a trainee car mechanic. Darren and Angie liked him, and he was friendly and polite. So they approved of the relationship, as they said, he treated Becky with respect. He was great, all good.
Cool.
So by February 2015, they'd been together a few months, and they spent as much time together as they could. And when they weren't together, they'd always be texting each other. They were all pretty much always in contact. So on the morning of the 19th of February 2015, Becky and Luke were texting each other. He was in his house, and she told him that she was at her house, and she was in her room listening to music. So Luke, sorry, I just had to clear my throat there. Luke, he had thought about visiting her, but he had appointments at the dentist and the barber, so he's like, I'll just wait till later. I'll go to my appointments first, and then I'll see her later. So Becky last texted Luke at 11:03 that morning, and then Luke went to the dentist, and he texted Becky at 12:09 saying, that's me done, I'm out of the dentist. And she didn't text back straight away, which was unusual, because usually, teenagers phone at their sides, glued to their hands. Yeah. He didn't think too much about it, like, oh, maybe she's at the toilet, or she's having a shower, or, something like that. But when she still hadn't replied half an hour later, he must have been getting a wee bit kind of, what's going on here? So he texted her again to try and get her attention, but nothing. At 12:46, he messaged, oi.
Oi.
That would be like, oi, excuse me.
I'm texting here.
But she didn't respond, and he messaged her again saying, oi, half an hour later, but again, silence. So, okay, it's normal. He's like, right, try to think of a rational explanation. So he's like, right, okay, maybe she's taking a nap. So he's like, right, I'll just wait a little while, see if she texts back, but never texts back again. So he had texted her again saying hello, again, nothing. So he went to get his hair cut, and then after that at 3 p.m, he checked his phone, and Becky still hadn't got back to him. So he tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. Right. So he thought, right, maybe her phone battery's died, and that's why she hadn't answered the text. Her phone's
you always think of rational reasons.
Yeah, of course, because
you don't think that the unthinkable could happen.
Exactly. So
you always try to rationalise it and think, oh, this is what must have happened, or
and you don't want to be like, oh, I'm just being an idiot here. I'm totally overthinking things, and
exactly.
Because most of the time you think, oh my god, something's happened, and then it turns out to be absolutely nothing.
Well, exactly.
So obviously that's the way that he's
the way he was
thinking.
thinking.
But then by 5 o'clock, he decided to go over to Becky's house because he was like, nah, something's not right here. Gonna go and check in on her. So he knocked on the door, and Shauna, her brother Nathan's girlfriend, answered. So remember, Nathan is the step sibling. And Shauna was the carer for Angie.
Yes.
So she was there. So he asked, is Becky in? And she was like, oh, I don't know. Like, so she kind of shouted to Angie. She's like, is Becky here? And she was like, oh, I don't know. Like, and she said, oh, neither of them had seen Becky all afternoon. So Shauna nipped upstairs to see if Becky was in her room. She wasn't. And she usually did tell her parents where she was going and who she was with, but sometimes she did leave the house without telling anyone. So it wasn't unheard of that they didn't know.
Went off somewhere.
Yeah. So her parents weren't too worried. She never went too far away, and if she wasn't with Luke, then she was always with her close group of friends who they knew and they trusted. They knew all of them, trusted them all. As I said, they were just a small group of close-knit friends.
Yeah.
So, although the fact that Becky wasn't answering texts did strike them as odd, because it was out of character.
Yeah.
And Luke said that Becky knew he was coming over that day. She didn't know when he was coming over, but she knew.
It was at some point.
Yeah. So why would she go out? Like, she never cancelled their plans without letting him know. But, they pushed the concerns to the back of their minds, as of course you would.
Yeah, trying to rationalise it.
Yeah.
It's something simple and nothing's wrong.
And they assured themselves, she'll be home soon, it's all good, she's out, her phone's ran out of battery, However, she didn't come home. So her parents thought she probably just spent the night at a friend's house, and I'm assuming they were probably pissed off that she hadn't let them know, but when they're probably going to be like, right, when she gets home, like, she's in trouble.
I'm going through her.
Yeah. But when she hadn't arrived home by the following afternoon, they were like, no, there's something wrong here. And, like, Darren, her dad, he'd actually went to work the next day, not really thinking too much of it. But then Angie phoned him at work and was like, look, all Becky's friends had actually all turned up at her house because they were worried by now because nobody had heard from her. And I thought that just goes to show what good friends that she had.
Yeah, totally.
So they'd all turned up at the house and said to Angie, look, we think something's going on here. So Angie was like, right, phone Darren. So Darren came home because nobody had heard from her for over 24 hours now. And our pals had been texting her, phoning her, checking Facebook, like to see if she'd posted, but just silence. She'd never gone this long without speaking to anyone. And it was like, yeah, she was a typical teenager and could be moody and fall out with her parents like a normal 16-year-old. But overall, she was a sensible, trustworthy girl and not the type to just disappear without a word. So they're like, right, I think we need to call the police.
Yeah, totally.
So Darren just phoned the police to report Becky missing, and the search started. So hundreds of police across 2 counties searched for her with no luck. The police turned to the media for help, so her disappearance was like on the front page, the papers and the news. Her dad and her gran held a press conference, and her gran, she was still sort of, in denial, like, no, nothing's happened. She's just staying somewhere. She's maybe took the huff and she's...
Yeah, she just hasn't been in touch. So.
Yeah, she's went off and she's staying at somebody's house, so she...
Then all her friends are there, so...
Well, yeah, like, where would she be?
Yeah, whose house? It must be somebody they don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, but she said, I think, as we've said, you do kind of put you try and come up with excuses.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You try to come up with excuses of what could have happened rather than actually, like, fearing the worst.
So the gran said at the press conference, quote, "You're so loved and I don't think you believe it. You really are so loved. Look at your poor dad. Please come home. Or whoever is sheltering her, do the right thing. Thank you." End quote. And I was like... But she did say later, though, that it was probably just wishful thinking on her part that Becky was staying somewhere, you know.
I know. What I said, you're trying to think there must be just a fine reason why she's not home, so you don't want to think, like, of all the worst things that could happen.
So, police interviewed everyone close to Becky for any information that could help them to find her. Like... what did she like to do? What social media did she use? Where did she like to go? How did she usually communicate with each person? Like, just to see if there was anything out of the ordinary before she disappeared. So as Shauna and Nathan, her stepbrother and his partner, were the last people to see Becky on that Thursday morning, the police interviewed them both separately to get as much information from them as possible. Shauna was asked to tell them about that day, so she'd said that, she'd rang Angie to see if she was going to be in that day. Angie had said that she was going to a hospital appointment, So they went over to be there, like, sort of for when Angie came back from her hospital appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So when Angie came home, I was kind of a bit confused by this, because when Luke had came to the door looking for Becky, they didn't know if she was in or not, you know, but according to Shauna, she said when Angie came home, she asked if Becky was in, and Shauna told her that she'd heard the door slam earlier, so she must have gone out.
Oh, so you think that she would have said that when...
Well, I suppose she could have thought, oh, maybe she's came back since then, I suppose.
Yeah.
But Nathan, he said he also heard the front door slam, so he also assumed that Becky had gone. That was Becky going out. So the version of events that they gave were the same. You know, they fit together really conveniently and really neatly, but maybe a bit too conveniently.
Yes.
The officers thought to themselves, they've talked to each other and they've got their stories straight. So that was definitely suspicious. So, and the way that Shauna presented herself was strange. Like, she was giggly and, like, light-hearted and didn't seem to be taking the situation seriously.
Right.
And Nathan came across as being fairly unconcerned. He was just sort of leaning back in his chair, very relaxed, very comfortable, sometimes even laughing and joking, even though he's in a police station. I'm like, I'm sorry, if I was in a police station, no matter what the situation was,
Exactly.
I'd be nervous.
I know, even if I hadn't done anything wrong, I'd still be nervous. I'd be like, oh god.
I walk through security in an airport and feel nervous because I think I look guilty because...
Well, that's like, sometimes I think, like, people can, like, twist, like, your words and stuff, so what if they, like, ask me a question and the way I've answered it makes me look like I'm guilty, but I'm actually not, and I would hate that.
Or even just the way that you're carrying yourself, like, the way that they were carrying themselves, that's what made them suspicious.
Yeah.
You know, him being relaxed, she was light-hearted. And just imagine if you were like that, even if you hadn't done anything wrong. Like,
I know. That's just your nature, isn't it?
I see a policeman and I just freeze. I'm like, I don't like...
And I think, I just feel like I've got a big sign that says, guilty, guilty above my head, and I'm like, I've not even done anything, but you just feel like you've done something.
That's why when we used to go on holiday and bring back the cheap cigarettes, that when we'd bring back more than we were allowed to.
Yeah.
And John used to hate it. He used to make me walk away from him. He'd be like, right, you walk ahead of me, I'm not with you, because I would just look guilty. And just in case the security stopped me, he was like, I'm not with her.
Yeah.
But yeah, authority scares me.
I know, listen, I'm not like it either.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I can imagine being like that. But after 2 hours of interviewing the couple, police didn't have any tangible evidence other than that they sensed that they were hiding something. But obviously that's not enough to...
No, you need to have some evidence.
Yeah, exactly. So they turned to the forensics team and sent them to Becky's house, as obviously that's the last place that she was seen. So they actually did find blood that wasn't visible to the naked eye on the door frame to Becky's room.
All right.
So some of the blood was like really down low, some of it was sort of waist height, and some of it was about shoulder height. So it looked like there'd been a struggle because the blood was sort of all over the place, not just one particular place. And they found fingerprints within the blood staining.
Okay.
So obviously they had to send that away.
Yes, of course.
So 9 days after Becky had gone missing, police asked Nathan and Shauna to come back to the police station for more questions. They still didn't have any evidence against the pair. As I said, just the sense that they'd got their story straight, they were being evasive, and they'd been the last people to see her. So they decided to target Shauna to try and see if the couple were holding anything back. So they asked her how Nathan was and, about the situation. And she said, quote, he's finding it quite hard, actually, or, again, knowing how hard it would be for his mum, because Becky was almost like a daughter to her. It has been very stressful for Angie, end quote. So, it was like she was saying he's more bothered about his mum rather than what had actually happened to where Becky was.
Yeah.
So Nathan was in another room and he was asked how he would describe his relationship with Becky. And he said, quote, I don't particularly talk to her, but obviously I don't particularly like her. And obviously what annoys me is the way she speaks to my mum sometimes. She'd be kind of like rude or whatever, end quote. So that was a shock to the police because nobody had mentioned that Nathan didn't like Becky.
Yeah.
Like they just, they thought that
it's like alarm bells ringing there.
They just thought that they got on okay. Like, weren't particularly close, but,
Yeah.
So forensics came back with the first results shortly after that, and the fingerprint in the blood turned out to be Nathan's. And I'm sure you're thinking, surprise, surprise, by this point.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah. Now, considering the police knew now, that Nathan and Becky didn't get on, surely he wouldn't go into a room very often, would he?
Well, no, why would he?
So why would his fingerprint be there? And but we don't actually know whose blood it is yet.
Right, okay.
So we know it's his fingerprint, but we don't know whose blood it is.
Right.
But 12 hours later, the DNA test results came back and showed that the blood did belong to Becky.
Right, okay.
So the police arrested Nathan and Shauna for kidnap, as they were, they're like, right, maybe she's still alive. They were hoping that she was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And they still didn't have the evidence for murder.
Yeah.
So both of them denied knowing anything about what had happened to Becky or where she was. Shauna was like, nobody in that family would have hurt Becky. They're just not like that. So, it was none of them.
Mm-hmm.
So while they were under arrest, police searched their house, which was about a mile from where Becky lived.
Mm-hmm.
So they had hope. The police actually did have hope that they were going to find Becky there,
Mm-hmm.
And get her back to her family. They thought maybe they've kidnapped her, they're holding her there for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So the first officer in, he even had trouble getting in the front door because of all the stuff behind the door.
Okay.
So there was actually 2 fridge freezers behind the door and then a cluttered hallway. Yeah, I know.
Oh, God.
So each room in the house was jam-packed with stuff.
Oh, God.
It was that bad that the officers didn't even realise that there was a downstairs toilet at first because all the stuff was just piled up.
Oh,
So
like big hoarders.
yeah, well, I was just about to say, just imagine a house that you've seen in Hoarders. That's what it looks like.
Oh, God, they're horrendous. I've seen those programmes that they have, like...
Yeah, everywhere is just piled up with
That'd
stuff.
be like my worst nightmare. No.
So when the officers went upstairs, there was one bit of the house that rang alarm bells. They went into the bathroom. There was a cooker and a microwave in there,
Right?
amongst other stuff. I'm like, a cooker and a microwave in the bathroom, really?
Yeah.
And other stuff as well. And you could barely see the sink,
Mm-hmm.
but you could see the toilet, obviously, because you need to use the toilet,
Mm-hmm.
and the bath. And it was the bath that rang alarm bells. It was spotless.
I was going to say,
it was
squeaky clean.
Yeah, it was shiny because it had been cleaned so well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I could have put money on that one.
Yeah, and that might not seem out of place in some houses, but in a house like that...
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because,
Why would that be that clean and the rest of the house is a bomb site?
Exactly. I mean, you couldn't clean anywhere else in the house because everything was piled up, so you wouldn't be able to get to the surfaces to clean them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was just, like, really out of place compared to the rest of the house. So after 2 days of searching Nathan and Shauna's house, police found some receipts in an old changing unit at the top of the stairs. And these receipts showed that on the 20th of February, the day that Becky was reported missing, someone had been to B&Q, which is a DIY shop for anybody who's not in the UK, because I don't know if it's a worldwide shop, I don't know.
I don't think so, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a DIY shop, anyway.
It's a DIY.
Yeah, so the receipt showed that they had bought a circular saw, some gloves, a pair of goggles, and face masks.
Oh my God, well, that just tells you exactly what's happened there then.
So the police went to B&Q to look at their CCTV, and there was Nathan buying those items. So from that, the police realised that they were most likely looking at a murder investigation now. So still in police custody, 28-year-old Nathan and 21-year-old Shauna were now arrested on suspicion of murder. So the police didn't tell them that they'd found the receipts from B&Q, but they did put the pressure on by telling Nathan that his house had been forensically searched. They could see that he wasn't so relaxed now.
Yeah, I bet.
And he was, he was probably weighing up his options in his head. He could either maybe stop talking altogether, carry on as before, just deny, or he could confess. So on the 11th day of the investigation at 10:26 p.m, Nathan gave police a statement through his lawyer. As it was written down, the officers wanted to read out loud so it could be recorded, and Nathan was like, he was like, I don't want to listen to this, can I put my fingers in my ears? And they, so I would have been like, no.
No, you will listen.
You will listen to it, but no, you actually see him on the footage, and he's like, got his elbows on the table, and he's got his fingers in his ears, not listening to it, and I thought, no, you should be listening to it.
That's just totally disrespectful.
And cowardly. If you've done something,
Aye, we've got
then you should be listening to it.
Absolutely.
So the statement read as follows. Oh, sorry. I, Nathan Charles Matthews, accept that I'm responsible for the death of Rebecca Watts. On the 19th of February 2015, I attended Crown Hill, St George, Bristol, with my girlfriend Shauna Hoare. In my car, I had a large bag, a stun device, handcuffs, tape and mask. I had developed an idea to scare Rebecca by kidnapping her. I wanted to scare her and teach her a lesson. I believed that she was selfish and her behaviour towards my mother was a risk to her health. A few minutes after arriving, Shauna said she wanted a cigarette and went into the garden. I went to the boot of my car, took out a bag that contained the items, then went upstairs to the landing before knocking on Rebecca's door. She replied, "What?" or "Hello," and I said, "Can I see you a minute?" I cannot be sure in which order things happened, but I used the items I had to subdue Rebecca. During the short struggle, my mask slipped and Rebecca was able to see my face. This caused me to panic and I strangled her while she was partially in the bag. So he must have been like trying to stuff her in the bag.
And he was trying to hide who he was?
Yeah.
He had a mask on?
Yeah, he was wanting to scare her. And
would she not have known from his voice there?
I have no idea. No idea.
Oh, okay.
So he confessed to murder, but he said it was an accident. You take all that stuff in your car and you say that's an accident?
I don't believe that for a second.
He said that he didn't mean to kill Becky. When his mum was asked if she believed that, she was like, no. Like, he did it on purpose. Like, he did it and he did it on purpose. That's his mum. Because you know how some people with their children can even be like, oh, it must have been an accident.
Because it baffles me that he's got an issue with how Becky treats his mum. Because obviously I'm not saying any teenagers that are perfect or young adults are perfect. But from the way that you've described her, she doesn't sound like she would necessarily...
Well, I don't think she was. I think he made that up.
Yeah.
I think, because the real reason will come out. So I think he was just... That was him just making that up, yeah. So his mum, his mum was not sticking it up for him, and it's like, no, he did it on purpose. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I just can't help but feel sorry for that woman. Like, her son, who she will have loved just the same as any mother loves their son,
of course,
killed her stepdaughter, who she loved as if she was her own. Mm-hmm. So basically, she's going to lose two children, one to death and the other one to prison. And I just felt so sorry for her. I thought how strong she must be. Mm-hmm. And I even thought as well, because her Angie and Darren are still together, mm-hmm. and I thought that just goes to show what amazing people they must be, because
her son killed
his daughter. Yeah, so you'd think that he would maybe resent her, and then maybe she would feel so guilty, so I just thought it just goes to show what amazing people they must be.
Mm-hmm, totally. So
Nathan went on to confess that he had used the circular saw to dismember Becky's body in his bath. Surprise, surprise. Mm-hmm. So he had put her body, so obviously she'd been killed in her own house, mm-hmm. he had put her body into the boot of his car, mm-hmm. and still stayed there for a few hours. Mm-hmm. So while Angie came home and Darren came home later on, he's sitting there chatting away to them as normal while Becky's body is in the boot of his car.
Awful.
And it's just awful. So after dismembering Becky's body, he then wrapped up the body parts and put them in boxes and bags and hid them in the garden shed of one of their neighbours. With the neighbour's permission, but we'll get to that as well. Okay. So the police went to the shed and obviously found Becky's body parts. Mm-hmm. So a private ambulance took her away, and later her dad went to see her in the morgue. So they'd done their best to cover up that she'd been dismembered. Mm-hmm. But Darren said that he could still see where Nathan had decapitated her.
Oh, God.
And I just can't imagine seeing that. Like, no parent should have to see that.
Oh, no.
Nobody should have to see that.
No, that's awful.
So one of the investigating officers said that a prepared statement is really the whole truth. And there may be a number of reasons why Nathan chose to give the account in, the way that he did. Mm-hmm. So that could have well have been, and was probably likely to be, because he wanted to downplay the violence mm-hmm. That he used, or how long it took for Becky to die. Mm-hmm. But another really obvious factor would be that he clearly excluded Shauna from being involved in any of it, or even having any knowledge of it.
Mm-hmm. Because I did wonder whether she did actually have something to do with it or
mm-hmm.
not.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's they were convinced that Shauna had something to do with it, but he was completely excluded her from it. So the officer told Nathan that they couldn't take the statement on face value. So that, they obviously, just because he'd said that, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the whole truth. So they had to still investigate the whole offence thoroughly. Uh-huh. So Shauna was being interviewed as well, and he said, "I know she's been interviewed, but I don't want to talk about Shauna." So it was like he's trying to protect her.
Yeah.
And it seemed to police that they both. It seemed to the police that initially they had both agreed to deny it, but maybe if it came to a point where they couldn't deny it any longer, he was going to accept responsibility and just keep her totally out of it.
Yeah, that does sound quite like how it's played out so
Yeah.
far.
So when Shauna was asked when did she find out that Nathan had killed Becky, she said yesterday morning, and prior to that she had no idea that he'd had any involvement in anything at all. But Becky's gran said, quote, they both stuck to their stories. His was ridiculous, hers was cold and calculated, and she's the brains, end quote. So Nathan, he was questioned more about how he killed Becky, asking if Becky was like standing up when he strangled her, and he was like, no comment. So, and then it was asked to what degree was she incapacitated then, and he was like, no comment. And then he just burst into tears. And then he was asked, was she conscious at the time that you strangled her? And through his sobbing, he said no comment. I mean, he was actually like had his head in his hands, like absolutely sobbing. And I just thought, because I watched that, and I was like, I have no sympathy for you whatsoever.
I do hate it when they bring on the tears, because I'm like, even if you are feeling emotion or regret about what you've done, like, you've still brutally murdered somebody, cut up her body, and hid her body parts. So I don't care how upset you're getting about that. That's, like, you deserve no sympathy.
No sympathy. And the thing is, he probably isn't even crying about that. He's probably crying because he's been caught.
No, yeah, exactly.
That's what I think.
He's feeling sorry for himself.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Feeling sorry for himself. No for Becky or what he's done to, well, his family. It's his family as well as hers.
Exactly.
So he has still insisted that he had acted alone, but detectives were certain that Shauna had played a part and focused their investigation on proving that she was involved. So she was asked, how do we know that you weren't involved in the killing of Becky? And she said, quote, because there would be no proof. I haven't touched anything or been anywhere near her, alive or dead, end quote. So after questioning Nathan and Shauna for the maximum 96 hours allowed by law, Nathan was charged with Becky's murder and remanded in custody to await trial. Detectives still couldn't link Shauna to the murder, but they wanted to keep her detained while they searched for the evidence that they were convinced it existed. So they charged her with perverting the course of justice initially because she'd been lying, obviously, because they were denying that you know. So she'd lied
and bought them some time.
Yeah, so that she was also put on remand. So they then continued to look for DNA evidence and searched all of Nathan and they also searched all of Nathan and Shauna's devices. So 2 months later, you can tell we're getting to the end of this and I'm tired. Deleted texts were found on one of Shauna's phones. And searches of the internet history found pornographic material of teenagers around Becky's age. So, as you said, she was 16, so kind of schoolgirls. The text between Shauna and Nathan were talking about potentially abducting a young female and taking her back to their house and keeping her in their attic. So surely this is what they were planning on doing to Becky.
Right.
So it was 90 Day Week, the way that she spoke to his mum and everything. He basically had a fantasy of kidnapping a schoolgirl and keeping her in the attic, and she was going along with it. That's basically what it was.
Right, okay.
So, that poor kid, like, she's 16 years old. She was, as she'd said to her boyfriend Luke, she was just sitting in her bedroom listening to music, and those two monsters must have burst in there wearing masks and attacked her. She must have been absolutely terrified.
Exactly. I wonder if she actually... Oh, you said the mask came off, so I was going to say, I wonder if she did actually know who it was, but...
I wonder if she knew initially, though. Like, imagine that, you're just sitting in your room listening to music and somebody just bursts into your room.
You're supposed to feel
in a mask.
At your safest.
That's it, your bedroom. That's in your house with your parents. That's
that's awful.
Yeah. So the police brought Shauna from remand for further questioning about this new evidence of a sexual motivation to the murder. When she was asked about a text message from Nathan telling her to bring two pretty schoolgirls home, she replied, no comment.
So you always think when they reply no comment that means they're guilty, because to me that's like, if you were truly innocent you would obviously want to say the truth and talk about it, but if you're saying no comment you don't want to talk about your guilty truth.
Yeah, so but some people are scared in case they their words get twisted, as you said before. Your words can get twisted. So maybe, but we know that she's done something. So So and there was a message from Shauna to Nathan which said that she had just been to the shop and she saw a very pretty petite girl and almost knocked her out to bring her home. And she wrote LOL at the end, you know. And she was asked about that. Again, no comment.
Mm-hmm.
So forensics then made a discovery. Shauna's DNA was on a face mask and on a bag containing Becky's remains. So that suggested that she had been involved in at least the dismemberment and putting the body parts into the boxes and bags. So Shauna was also charged with murder and perverting the course of justice. So at the trial in October 2015, Nathan was found guilty of murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 33 years. Shauna was found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to 17 years. So, two men, James Ireland and Donovan Demetrius, were cleared of assisting an offender which related to the moving and storing of packaging containing Becky's remains. So they were obviously accused of it, but
had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. But Donovan's brother, Carl, and his girlfriend, Jadine Parsons, they were the ones who actually owned the shed where Becky's remains were hidden.
Right.
And even though they said that they didn't know what the packages contained, they gave permission, but they didn't know, well, they said they didn't know what the packages contained. But Carl got sentenced to 2 years in prison, and Jadine was sentenced to 16 months in prison.
Wow. Wow. I mean,
yeah, I mean how can they prove that they knew what was in those packages?
Exactly, because if somebody came along and said...
Like, if a friend...
Yeah, like a friend, can you store a couple of things in your shed? I mean...
I wouldn't think anything of it.
I mean, maybe I would go, oh, what is it, maybe? But if they just said, oh, it's just, I don't know, they might have made up what it was.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, alright, cool. But I mean, does that make you guilty of something?
Yeah, unless they had more they maybe had more information.
Maybe,
but yeah, I was actually surprised at that, just on the lack of information, because I thought, wait a minute, you know, as you just said, if their friends have come along and said, oh, can I keep a couple of boxes or whatever in your shed? What is it? You know, they said, what is it? Oh, just a few bits, a few ornaments, you know, just bits and pieces.
Like, they could be saying, like, oh, I'm clearing out the house or something like, you know.
And then they've got put in jail for it. So there maybe was more to that, but yeah, so he got 33, a minimum of 33, and she got 17. So that's his stepsister.
Yeah. But then I wonder, because obviously if the fantasy was to actually keep someone in the attic or whatever, then did she fight back and it went wrong and that's why they killed her? Cause, I mean,
well, she said the face mask.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So maybe if they were gonna, well, they maybe would have showed her who they were when they took her back to the attic. I don't know, or maybe they still would have just done it masked. They could have her blindfolded, like in the attic, or but then she would have recognised their voices and stuff.
Why would you? I mean, why would you do it to anybody? But it seems even more daft to do it to your own family.
Exactly. I mean, like, you're doing that to your mum. You know how close your mum is to her. Like, she's a daughter to her.
Yeah.
And no, I don't know.
I mean, I don't understand. Well, I'll never understand why anybody comes to the conclusion of doing something like that to anybody. But it's baffling. But yeah, no. I mean, they obviously got as good as justice as they can get. So
well, yeah, they got what they deserved. They got found out. They got put in prison. So,
but
that poor family, that's absolutely awful. Because as you said, you know, they've lost Becky, but they've also lost him and her, and they had kids. I don't know how many kids they had, but they had children.
Oh, and they were living in that house.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I know, but they're grown up without, because as I said, she's in there for 17 years. He's in there for 33 years. So those kids are going to grow up without their parents. So, you know, nobody's won out of that situation, have they?
No, 100% not. This.
But yeah, so there we go. There's your case for this week. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Yep, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye. If you'd like to get in contact with us or follow us on our social media, we are on Instagram and Twitter at crime_divers_pod. You can email us at crime_divers_pod@outlook.com. We're on YouTube, and that's Crime Divers Podcast, and TikTok is also Crime Divers Podcast. If you would like to financially support the show, you could go to www.buymeacoffee.com/crimedivers and make a one-off donation. Our Patreon is patreon.com/crimedivers. We have 3 tiers, which is £1, £3 or £5, and you get bonus episodes, early access to episodes, and ad-free episodes.
And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe, rate and review.